Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang is present. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video, I think, for the channel, because I kind of want to talk about just some topics that people in the past have wanted me to talk about, and why I approach the internet in the way that I do. And this is because of the entitlement from social media to people's perceptions, and the ways that it has kind of eliminated aspects of intellectual privacy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do I even know what I'm titling this yet? No. Drinking Ice Cap Canadian style. So, links, comments, things I use, citations, Amazon, blah, 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 linked down below. Everything's going to be there. And let's get right into it, because I want to address things as quickly as possible. There were quite a few things that inspired me to do this video. For one, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial and how that's been going and how it's been perceived on the internet has really bothered me, as well as Nick Is Not Green made a video about streamers, and his particular section about Dream also inspired me, along with kind of just reflecting on my channel as a whole and everything that's happened. So we're going to talk about 3 aspects of social media overstepping in people's lives and personal boundaries through 3 sections of content styles. So we're going to start with trials, crime, and the legal system. Then we're going to talk about fandoms and criticizing people's favorite creators. And 3, religion, sexuality, socioeconomics. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This video will get like 1,000 views, and that's fine. For those who have requested a lot of content from me and all these types of things, this is kind of the videos for you, you know. Part 1, trials and the legal system. Trigger warnings for this section are abuse, death threats, domestic violence, crime, all those types of things. We are going to be addressing the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, but not in the way that a lot of other people are. So, because that's going to be the most topical part of this video, and that's what we're starting with. Right out of the gate, I don't understand why the trial is being streamed in the first place. I find that it has become this mystical kind of circus for people to watch and commentate on in a way that I would have not imagined anybody on earth really would appreciate. Even those that are participating in it, there's this huge set of smear campaigns and slandering of Amber Heard, which, you know, do I think she's a good person? Literally not at all. Not defending her in the slightest bit. However, in a legal system where it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, it almost feels like the entire internet is attempting to sway the jury on the court case. It's very weird and feels very mishandled. And I'm allowed to address that feels mishandled without stating a side, in my opinion, on who is abusive and who is not. That is another thing that needs to be talked about in regards to this video. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Mika, lots of trials have been televised. If we think back to even the 90s with the O.J. Simpson trial, right? And how that was televised. Sure. However, when things are televised, you have laws of media, you have professionals in the field, people study to be news anchors, people study to be on television a lot of the time. There's a lot more professionalism in line with that. And I know that like social media is beautiful by how it allows people to demonstrate their opinions, talk about their content. I know this is not a professional setup. There's a weird cool tone ring light in my face and my makeup looks kind of funny. And there's a pile of children's toys in the background. But at the same time, I'm not utilizing my platform to drive opinions on things that I'm not versed in, or at least I try not to do that. Now, again, I'm treading a fine line here, and I know that there will be a lot of criticism to this video, which is fine. What I'm trying to talk about is that line. It's one thing to make opinions, to talk about the trial, to talk about how you feel about it, but it's another thing to run around and be like, it is certain that X person hasn't done anything wrong and Y person has done every single thing right. There's a creator on TikTok that is a subscriber of mine, and they go by Midwest Bimbo. They talk about how there is no perfect victim and how the idea of like mutual abuse is not really a thing. In what people are actually looking to describe is called reactive abuse. This means this kind of idea of abusing someone who has abused you.
There's no such thing called mutual abuse. Hi, I'm Jessica and not Midwest Bimbo, and I'm trying to use my name so that you guys can possibly humanize me because a lot of people have a habit of coming into my comment section and being absolutely vile. Besides the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, the first thing that pops up when you Google mutual abuse is the fact that it is a myth. The word that a lot of you guys are looking for is reactive abuse. Reactive abuse is when a victim starts behaving in a way that many of us would be considered abusive, but it is a defense mechanism because of the abuse that they are facing. Do you get that? A lot of people want a perfect victim, and when somebody starts acting out of character because of reactive abuse, they don't get their perfect victim, and you guys are telling on yourselves. Stop being weird.
If we go into something that's called peace and conflict studies, which is something that I studied in university a little bit, talks about what's called the cycles of trauma and the cycles of abuse. This says that everybody has caused someone else trauma in their lifetime, whether they want to admit to it or not. And that those who have been abused and do not solve it or are stuck in a place where this keeps happening are likely to continue the cycles themselves. Their TikTok brought forward the thing that I have been trying to say for a long time, which is there's no perfect victim. There's no perfect perpetrator in most situations, especially ones like these where there is a lot of trauma on both sides. That's why I didn't want to talk about this, because I know why people want me to approach the video. People want me to sit and watch clips of Amber Heard on the stand. They want me to talk about how manipulative she is and the tendencies on how she describes things and the way that she would use, past tense principle, past passé. God, what's that in English? How she would use the descriptions of past tense and separate herself from her conversations to be using you messages instead of I messages, etc. Right? That's what people were looking for from me. However, I'm not going to give you that because it's not. There's three things wrong with that. For one, I never studied forensics. I have never claimed to study forensics. All I've ever said in that field is I know what lawyers are doing. That is different than knowing criminology. Lawyers it's a kind of closer to a writerly discipline. That is different than knowing if someone's a criminal. So please stop asking me. Two, I wasn't there. I am not a legal specialist. I don't know how to handle evidence, and I don't know how to talk about it, so I don't want to claim that I do. And three, I find this stuff is too serious to put into a YouTube video where I will objectively start siding with people and start talking about how someone has been wronged and how someone else has not in this objective sense, because I just see so many people on Twitter and on TikTok and Instagram and blah, blah, blah. They're just people are cheering for Johnny Depp. He has won. This is some sort of game. If Johnny was the only one abused and there was no reactive abuse at all, which sounds doubtful to me based on what I've seen from all of this, I'll eat my foot or whatever. But at the same time, it's also none of my business, and all of this feels like it's just not my business, because it's one thing to talk about YouTubers on a platform that you share and these discrepancies and even being able to be the voice for people in the community to show support. In that case, if we're talking about, let's say, Gus Johnson and Sabrina. But it's another thing to commentate on these ultra powerful people in a way that can bring forth harmful precedents that can cause more cycles of abuse in the future. I know that that's going to sound hyperbolic, but I already see it happening. And the reason why is Johnny Depp is a male victim in the same way that Jack Wright allegedly was, right? When we've talked about that on this channel many times. Do I think male victims exist? Of course I do. I've said this time and time and time again. If you claim that I don't agree with that, you have not watched my content and you don't know who I am. However, how I've seen this portrayed in a lot of corners of the internet because of the nature of this case is people making it sound like women fake these things for clout, or women use these to climb up women use stories of abuse to climb up social ladders, which is a cycle of perpetration that is very harmful and written deeply in the patriarchy. That is kind of why I don't feel like social media should be able to be handling situations like these. And in the sense of, that's why I don't think it should have been streamed. It's still going on to my recollection, but I don't think it should be streamed. Especially because there's things like fan cams of Johnny Depp on the stand on TikTok. There are commentary and reaction videos with puke emojis in the thumbnails, and people talking about like defecating in a bed or something, and all of these like jokes and all of this stuff. It's, even if the situation is objectively kind of funny in some aspects, such as like defecating in a bed, for example, people will acknowledge that Johnny Depp is traumatized, but then depict this in a comical way, supposedly in his favor. Even if the support is there, I feel like making a joke of it deteriorates its meaningful nature. And then again, there's the people on the other side that are using this almost as a cycle of excuses to show that like women cry that they're being hit for clout. Like I said, totally allowed to have your opinion, and I'm not saying don't make the content you want, do what you want. I'm just trying to explain how I feel social media oversteps and why I don't want to make videos on this content in particular, and or dedicated videos on my channel or any of that kind of stuff. I've seen like other creators on Twitter, I'll put a couple tweets up that are just talking about how it's gotten very weird. And of course, the creator I talked about on TikTok too, Midwest Bimbo, talked about this on their TikTok as well.
There's one thing you can expect from me, and that's the unexpected.
I'm not sure really how to explain this to some of you, and if you need me to explain to you what a smear campaign is, I will do exactly that. But the fact is that Johnny Depp is quite literally running a smear campaign against Amber Heard that other influencers, YouTubers, celebrities, and now officially cosmetic companies are playing into. And I have to say, that is despicable activity. The fact that a cosmetics company is making a video like this should kind of scare you a little bit, because it's getting really weird. And some of you guys with your little takes that you have online in your little YouTube videos, I hope you know, people, especially abuse survivors, see it. It's getting weird. Some of you are going to hell.
And the fact that people who are saying these things, like making fan cams of Johnny Depp on the stand, talking about being seriously injured in this way of like getting that W, is crossing lines, then they get doxxed or they get harassed or they get bullied. Like, do you not? And also, I can understand maybe my tone might sound a bit accusatory. Is that how you say that? Pronounce that word? Regardless. I'm not assuming my audience is doing this. I'm just trying to be transparent and forefront as to why I don't want to address this specifically. This is one thing for me to comment on YouTube content. It's another thing for me to sit on here, react to hours and hours of streams of very raw and real forensics and criminal psychology and all of these different aspects that come into this court case untrained. Because this channel's built on trust with the audience, or at least I hope it is. And I don't want to violate that either. And I personally don't want to overstep, which I find that this case is a situation where I've noticed more so than most things I've interacted with online thus far as a huge instance of overstepping. And that's what this video is about, is that idea of social media crossing personal boundaries. And I find that this goes for true crime to some extent as well. Now, some may argue there are more respectful ways of doing it. There's, different ways to approach it, whatever. That's another type of content that I have been asked to make pretty frequently, which again does not sit right with me personally. And it's because... So for one thing that bothers me is like that TikTok trend where it's like girls doing makeup and it's like her legs were cut off, her bones were cut off, her head was cut off, or his, or whatever it is, right? And they're making like this kind of quirky ha 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 thing about like listening to murder podcasts while they do their makeup. Maybe it's just not for different strokes for different folks. Not this folk. Not this folk. People have asked me to cover that as well. People have asked me to either cover the true crime community, to cover true crime myself. I have no interest in it at all. Don't like crime shows, don't like crime podcasts. I actually don't like that, like, seems like every podcast on earth has turned into a true crime podcast. I find that when you're not specialized in fields that deal with heavy sensitivity, that I don't want to approach that type of content. And these are when it requires specialization, because talking about other creators, talking about drama, talking about scandal, doesn't need specialization. But when you're talking about things like evidence handling, forensics, like bodies, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but when someone, like autopsies, that's what I'm saying. And all these different types of things, whether they talk about that or not, I guess depends on the content creator and everything. That's when I feel like you're overstepping into a way that can create false information and can be do more harm than good. This again is just my opinion. So yeah, that's also why I won't cover true crime content either, because it's just, to me, it doesn't really make sense. I can understand that like my personal field of study, rhetoric, is quite confusing because it's arguments and it's like day-to-day conversation and it's tactics of delivery and all this stuff without it being psychology, criminology, forensics, or philosophy. Despite the fact that I have studied philosophy, so I'm qualified to do that as well, but I don't talk about that much. That's the first component of this video, is that overstepping through crime and legal systems and stuff. Even things like Tati Westbrook's trials, channels like Without a Crystal Ball were finding legal documents and going through personal documents to figure out like who her dad was. People take legal disputes that have nothing to do with them or have nothing to do with anything they're interested in and just use it as a way to like find dirt on people. And which is why I kind of love living in Canada, because let's say for some reason I get sued. God forbid. My records, court records, are not public. If I get detained, it's not public, which I love that, because it's been a fear of mine, this idea of like, if something happens to me in a legal sense, if someone can pull up my records and pull up things about me to use against me, it's scary. So we're getting to the second component of this, just fandoms and criticizing someone's faves. I added this section in a little bit later. This was like last night. I was cooking dinner and I was watching Nick is Not Green's video about streamers. I keep talking about this man. I promise you I watch other people. Okay, for those of you who don't know, like when you're a YouTuber, blah, 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 cringe, you have what's called like your audience also watches section. For like 5 months, Nick is Not Green or Green is Not Nick, which is his second channel, is my top overlap. And the reason for this is we talk about the same stuff. Like it's very topical overlapping content. So when he'll bring up something, I often am innate, like it's an interest of mine as well. And I tend to often be scripting something along that line before the video even comes up. No, I'm not trying to like ride on his clout, please. It keeps happening. That's why I want to address that. So he was talking about Dream and Dream stands at one point in the video. He was talking about how scared he was to talk about Dream.
What he's talking about. Now, there's a lot surrounding this story, but I want to get down to the meat of it and hopefully hear every side of the conversation so I don't get destroyed by Dream stands. That is a joke. Just because I'm saying I don't want to get destroyed by Dream stands isn't me making fun of Dream stands. I genuinely am just saying, like, give me a second, okay? I'm so scared. Long story short, Dream made an ambiguous tweet about his sexuality after being accused of making a homophobic joke, and people went bonkers.
You know, the Minecraft guy with no face? Not that he doesn't have a face, but he doesn't show his face, which we love that. You know, we love people who, you know, don't show their face. We don't dox people or anything like that. If anyone starts commenting stuff about Dream's identity, I will delete the comment and block him from the channel forever. Certain fandoms, including Dream's, have become notorious for spamming hurtful language, bullying, harassing, and doxing people who are critical of Dream. This is not me being critical of Dream, because I myself am somewhat afraid of them. I don't know anything about Dream. All I've heard is he cheated Minecraft or something, which, like, I don't care. I don't even know what that means. Like, it was a speedrun or something like that. But when you can't criticize someone on pretty mundane things without the fear of your address and your family name ending up somewhere, do you not think that there is a line that has been crossed a millennia ago, like, you know, way down the line, that shouldn't have infringed on that privacy in the first place? Because creators will come for each other and dox each other when criticized. Like, so I have a video in 2016 as part one. I talk about commentary YouTubers, usually in that section in particular, in context to Keemstar. And in 2016, Pyrocynical made a video about Tobuscus and the allegations that he was under at the time. And in that video, he talked about how Keemstar made the Drama Alert video with full certainty of the allegations without any sort of, kind of saying that maybe this isn't true, any sort of allegedly or statements or anything like that, right? And then Keemstar doxed him. Like, he just put his face out there. Threw it out. This is Niall's face. Even then, I called him Niall, which I feel like most people don't know that's what his name is. So I just doxed Anyways, he got doxed by Keemstar. And this is the same thing with the atheist community. I was critical of Jimmy Snow. Some of my first videos that were popular on the channel were Jimmy Snow related. If you go into the popular videos like playlist thing on my channel, I think 3 of them, like back in the lower end, are Jimmy Snow videos. It's mind-boggling to me that I made a video about Jimmy Snow and I got someone in my emails telling me that I'm affiliated with the wrong people and that they're going to dox. Affiliated with, by the way, was because I was talking about a statement that Jimmy had put out regarding this channel called The Non Sequitur Show. And I literally had a big type text that I am not siding with anybody, I am just reading this objectively. All nuance vanished from human existence. She was gone. Boom. No nuance, no nothing, despite the fact that I had mentioned that I had no affiliation and I did not care to affiliate in any way regarding Jimmy Snow or the people that he is against, right? So I was getting threatened in my comments. I was getting emails. I was getting people telling me that I was going to get my address leaked. The reason why this channel does not have my last name on it anymore is because of the atheist community. Now I have to change it again to something less tied to me just because of professionalism and stuff like that. But I'll have to change it again eventually, but I haven't thought of anything yet. I started to hide my identity because of the fear of being doxxed by the atheist community or the what's it called, ACA community, etc. Like those types, that end of the internet. Gus Johnson stands are another example of this type of infighting or fighting with creators and crossing boundaries for the sake of someone that they don't even know. Nobody watching my videos really knows me, and that's not to like say that I don't appreciate everybody. That's not it at all. However, my personality does not come through in these videos too much, to be honest. These are kind of more of a professional side of me than like my typical way of speaking. People who I make videos with have a little bit more of an idea of what I'm like, and people who have seen my live streams have more of an idea what I like and how I say things and my sense of humor, right? In preservation of my own safety, I don't be myself too much, I guess I suppose, on this channel, right? So Gus Johnson stands. Once Gus Johnson came back, took that as an excuse to berate people who criticized him. I got called ugly. I got called stupid. Someone said my forehead was on the Gus Johnson subreddit. Now, I'm going to say this in response. I'm going to respond to you, commenter. XXO Gossip Girl. I've lived with this here forehead for almost 22 years. My uncle had to get custom bike helmets because his head was too big. Do you not think I know that I have a big-ass forehead? You know who has a big forehead? Rihanna. So once Gus Johnson came back, people used his comeback not only to berate other people and to harass other people, also to harass Sabrina and try to say things like she keeps bringing it up for clout, despite the fact that Nick is Not Green confirmed in his video, and he is friends with Sabrina, that she has literally blocked like Gus Johnson, like terms like that on Twitter, so she doesn't have to see it. But because it's a woman who was shown support and acknowledged the support that she got, that means that she's like chasing clout. This again, if we go back to the Johnny Depp thing, is why I'm so worried about those cycles of perfect victim, perfect abuser, trying to make it seem like women cry abuse for clout. You see that there's connections here, that this trickles down the line quite farther than you would imagine. In the Gus Johnson subreddit too, there were people excusing their own poor actions given the similar nature they were to Gus Johnson's, because Gus Johnson was able to come back and still be a nice guy. Are you allowed to like creators? Totally. Are you allowed to stan? Sure. I don't know. I stan. I guess I gotta be a Nick is Not Green stan. I don't know because I keep bringing him up. But like, there's a line when you can't acknowledge that other people are critical of them and other people do not like them. that you need to see where you sit as as your own personal boundaries and your viewpoints as a person. That is all I'm going to say about that. But that is another line instead of boundaries that I find social media loves crossing. Because I find that associations have become more indicative of your value than your own morals and your own standpoints, which I don't think makes sense. Because often when you say you've associated with somebody, you get questioned about their niche actions and opinions that you have never condoned or addressed personally. Now, that, for example, if we're going to come back to me, because it's all about me, no, it's because I don't want to comment on other people's actions and stuff like that. But I made a video on Mr. Beard's video about Trisha Paytas. In that video, I said that I was talking about Mr. Beard in general, right? Mr. Beard had made comments in the past on their Twitter just about like fat phobia and stuff. They're somebody who is not fat phobic at all, but they would say things like, health at every size is a bit problematic and things along those lines, right? Things that I have never commented on personally once. On this channel, never ever talked about health at every size, like I talked about like Sienna May pretending to be like mid-size and that being kind of problematic, but I've never talked about like fat phobia and those like, more complex, nuanced topics on like in the forefront of anything really, right? And I was getting people commenting, don't associate with Mr. Beard, they're fat phobic, as if that was a problem with me. And then other people were too, when I was talking about Trisha Paytas' comments about Israel, they condemned me for not talking about Palestine in that video, despite the fact that that wasn't necessarily relevant to what I was talking about. But because I hadn't made a direct association with a sign on something, not necessarily related to what I was talking about, that was going to be indicative of my morals then and there. Or who I associate with did not comment on Israel and Palestine and the settler state and everything like that. But at the same time, if you're not 100% knowledgeable on something and you don't comment on it with 100% accuracy, then you're a bad person. Do you see that there's something not clicking there? I can't know everything. You can't know everything. I don't know everything. Neither do you. And I'm not saying you are accusing me. I'm just saying that these are things that you notice as a creator, right? These ways that social media passes boundaries. So if we get back to the final chapter or section or paragraph, essay style, high school essays, 3 body paragraphs, intro, conclusion. Do you see what I've been doing this whole time? It's almost like I teach English or something. So this section in particular is inspired by the direction of my own channel. This is religion, sexuality, socioeconomics. So when I talk back to the atheist thing, right? So the most popular topics I talked about before were atheist content. It was particularly my Jimmy Snow videos. And the reason why that was more popular for me than some other creators or just some other conversations, they stuck a bit more, was because I talked about my experiences in rhetoric, studying theology, studying religious rhetoric, things like secular humanism and where secular humanism actually comes from, where a lot of the origin of ideologies depicted in secular humanism were actually from Christianity. I brought up points like that, right? Obviously, secular humanism is not Christianity, because that's another thing, people miss that nuance, but because secular by definition, it means not religious, right? Because often in my videos, I talked about, if you don't know what Jimmy Snow is, it was previously Dear Mr. Atheist, if that helps, I don't know. But I talked about how the claims that the atheist community was often making, people like Jimmy Snow that were like, rah, rah, big words, me smart, were making claims that were unfounded, right? And in those claims, they were often citing the very things that they were against. People were attacking me as like a Jesus defender, like a religious defender, which was interesting and triggering for me because I come from a long line of French Catholics. For those of you who don't know, I am what's called Québécoise. J'habite au Québec. Je parle français. Toute ma famille parle français. Sauf mon frère, but I'm from French family, right? And for those of you who are outside of Canada, outside of Quebec especially, in the 1960s, there was this huge revolt against the Catholic Church the French had, which now the province of Quebec is I would say structurally the most secular province in the country. They have bans on many secular laws, some that definitely infringe on people's religious rights, allegedly, I guess I have to say, but there's a lot of problems with that because it's like pretty much saying like you're like you can't have certain symbols, and some of them are pretty racially charged. It's a whole set of issues. There's a huge revolt, particularly with the French population and the Catholic Church. So when people are telling me that I am a religious defender, like a Catholic Church apologist, because I said that because you're Christian doesn't mean you're a bad person, and atheists can be bad people too in their arguments that are manipulative, in the same way that a lot of theists can be manipulative with their arguments, that somehow I was co-signing the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church that has caused generations of trauma in my own family. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense. Because I said that you cannot have one specific little tick on a box that makes you a bad person 100%, I am co-signing the Catholic Church. I deleted a lot of those comments actually because I just wasn't having it. This video might just seem like me bitching and whining, me talking about lines that have been crossed with me personally. This video is doing 3 things. 1, it is talking about things I feel like a lot of content creators feel and a lot of people on the online simply feel, especially when people's privacy is violated due to people's stepping over these lines. I know there was like this Discord with people that used to be Hello Leash's mods. I was in this Discord for a little bit because I was just like kind of like friends with them through like Gabby Hanna videos and stuff. And then this like channel whose Blossom, I don't remember what the channel name was. Oopsies. They made a video talking about a fight they had in the Discord and then called the Discord a cult or something. And then was exposed people who were not online personalities in the thumbnail of that video. What? Right? So there's these lines that get crossed when you're making content. And even if you're not making content, you're just associated with people who make content because people can use their platforms for good or for evil so as they decide, right? So back to my list of 3 because my script is just dead now. It doesn't even exist. There's people who use social media. There's boundaries they feel like they cross. I wanted to personally address why I don't make certain kinds of content for the sake of keeping my relationship with my audience and being upfront with everybody. And 3, I feel like I can only depict these kind of boundaries that are set in my own experiences just because I'm the one who's lived them. That's how the way I see things. That's the way that I perceive life. If that makes me a narcissist or something, I don't know. But that's just how I'm not certain of other people's experience. I don't want to claim to be. Because then what ends up happening too is because the people you associate with and because of presumed socioeconomic oh my God, French. Because of things like socioeconomic, sexuality, religion, etc., people are putting you in certain groups, certain boxes, and then you can be exposed to communities that are against your fundamental rights as a person. There have been people who have been bullied out of their non-binary or transgender identities, people who have begun to hide themselves. There are people who have been bullied out of even just having their sexuality or their political beliefs be out there. There are people who hide their if they're atheist, if they're secular, if they're spiritual in like a sense of like a Wiccan fashion or anything along those lines, if they are Muslim, if they are Jewish, because of these fears of being exposed to these communities that despise your every being, right? Because even if we get into things like socioeconomics, I don't know if other creators have this because there are traumas and certain aspects that are attached to you that carry through your life, right? Because as I've grown as a creator, I've begun to get a lot of questions about things like, how much money do you make? Or like, people will comment like, well, if you have things like an Amazon wishlist, why don't you just get a real job? Or assumptions about where it came from, or any of those kinds of things, that I'm privileged or whatever. Which privilege, I will say, is true. I have I live in an apartment that I pay for. I eat food every day. I have a relationship with my parents. These types of things are privileges, right? However, the amount of privileges that I have versus what someone else have, there are great discrepancies between those things. And with that can bring forth traumas from living in poverty. I come from a very low income family. This channel is paying me through graduate studies that I'm taking in the province in which I was born for the highest tuition reductions possible. However, I also go to a good school, I love that for me. But anyways, so people are pushing these boundaries of me, having no idea that I have this constant fear of everything going away tomorrow. And just trying to put myself in the place of the most stability as possible, which is something that I was never used to. And it's very jarring and hard to deal with. And I know there's obviously bigger problems in the world, but at the same time, you have to be able to validate your own issues and your own circumstances. Because social media shapes perceptions of like this like perfect lifestyle. While that glass ceiling is breaking, as a result of this glass ceiling breaking, people feel they have the right to inquire about your entire life to break that glass ceiling, if that makes sense. So people see my videos and everything, and they go, okay, well, we know that it's not perfect, and we know that you're not, like, rich, so, like, how much are you making? What are you doing? And obviously for different people, asking about things like income and asking about, like, lifestyles and stuff like that doesn't bother them. Like I said, I know I have a special circumstance given my history. I'm trying to educate on kind of just lines that social media crosses that I've experienced personally and have shaped this channel and the way that I make the content, the way that I talk to. This is really ranty. I just wanted to talk about it just because I feel like the Johnny Depp trial really triggered this one for me. All right? So don't question people's sexuality. Let them live. Just like that's what my whole life, like, people are like, oh, you're so chill online. Like, how do you not, like, freak out about stuff? It's literally like how I live my life is just leave people alone. like, oh, I see that person tweeted something that was really annoying. Okay. I'm gonna just keep going. I feel like it's not that hard, but I don't think it is very rare, if ever, I'm super critical on commenting on people, like, on their, like, platforms or anything like that. You know, I kind of keep it in my own boundaries, right? But to conclude, I hope this video ends up being okay. I feel like it was kind of ranty and a little bit personal. And I didn't mean to just complain. I'm just saying the different ways that social media could push boundaries through my own personal experiences. Super exciting videos coming down the pipeline. You'll see soon, my friends. And links, like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, whatever, affiliated things, all that kind of stuff. My description looks like a Chicago-style citation page. It is very long because I want to make sure I provide everything for you. Nick is Not Green's channel will be linked. I'll link Pyrocynical's channel as well if you want to know who I was talking about. And anything else that, if anybody has anything they want me to link, let me know. And I'll put it in the description as well. And I'll pin your comment and everything like that. So you guys have a great day. I'll see you when I see you. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.
I'm done with the conversation now.
Sit back down.
I'm sat.